Welcome to season 2 of the Happy Sensory Corner podcast. We want to help everyone, especially when they are vulnerable, like children with special needs, to feel happier, to feel more confident, calmer, so that they can be their true selves and we can all journey together through life more comfortably. And to do that, we train families and professionals to boost brain development with sensory enrichment games. And so we're experts in boosting brain development, but we are not experts in everything. For example, we're not experts in what you eat, physical activity, advocacy, education, job training, travel, caregiver support. And so today I'm excited to introduce our guest, Michelle Choairy. Michelle is the founder of Collective Wisdom for Complex Kids. Michelle, you're not just a dedicated mom of a complex kid, but you're an expert in navigating the world of special needs. From dealing with developmental delays and autism to managing IEPs and special education services, you have faced it all head on, and through your own experiences, you found a way to streamline the process, avoid pitfalls. And so you're an invaluable resource to our podcast listeners today, and I'm thrilled to have you on. Welcome, Michelle.
Oh, thank you so much. That was so nice what you said about me. And I'm so excited to be here.
And we're also here with Claudie Pomares, the creator of Sensory Enrichment Therapy. She's our Chief Science Officer at Mendability, where we provide this unique evidence-based brain stimulation program. And Claudie will be our brain development expert through all this. I am your host, Kim Pomares, CEO at Mendability. And for those of you who are paying attention, yes, I have the same family name, and that's because Claudie is my mom. Hi, Mom.
Hello, and I'm so proud to have you here.
Thank you.
So, Michelle, what is your why? Why did you found Collective Wisdom for Complex Kids?
That is a good question. And of course, it's gonna go back to my handsome 10-year-old son. My son was born when about 8 weeks early and ended up in the NICU for 4 weeks. He was only like 2 pounds, 14 ounces. He was tiny, tiny. And from the beginning, we knew that there was delays, that there were feeding issues, and when we realized those things, one of the things that I did right away was start getting him early intervention. But I want to stop there and I want to tell you why I did this is because I know how hard this is for moms to navigate. And all of this education and IEPs and everything that I had to deal with from when he was a baby or 18 months old, I had to learn. I had nowhere to turn to. I just got bits and pieces of things from all over. And I was lost. I was so lost because there's so much to know. And about 2 years ago, I was speaking with one of the moms that I work with, and she also has a complex kid. And she was like, Michelle, you really should do this. You really need to teach people. You have done so much for your son, for the community, even. Like, I come to you and I ask you questions, and I'm a physician. And so you need to put it out there. And it all started with my son, and then it ended up that with the idea of connecting moms, helping moms that are navigating through what I have gone through in this time in their lives. So
That's fabulous. So wonderful that you did it.
thank you. Thank you. Yes, it's hard enough being a mom of a complex kid, right? And I like to say complex because there's so many different things that you can call. You can say autism, you can say developmental delay, you can say ADHD. There's so many labels when it comes to kids, but I feel like you have to know the same things that you need to know for an ADHD child to a genetic disorder kid or anything like that, because it's a family. You're going to deal with family issues. You're going to need either an IEP or 504. You have all those things that you have to deal with. And it's the same. So it might be in different stages, or like some might be a little bit lighter, some of them are a little harder to deal with, but you need to know the same things. So
if you need to know the same things, I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's a system or a formula or a process. Have you identified like, okay, what's the first step? What's the second step? And I suspect that maybe the first two are similar for most people, and then they start to diverge, or
yes, so in what I decided to do, and I call it my T.H.R.I.V.E method, if you will. It's not necessarily in order, but it will encompass what I'm trying to tell you. So the first thing is teamwork. That's the T on the Thrive. And one of the hardest things for me was I couldn't do it alone. For a little while there, I was so lost and I didn't know where to go. So I started looking for things. So it all actually started, and I will tell you the story about my son because that's kind of how it started with the teamwork. He couldn't eat, and I went to my pediatrician. I went to a GI, and I couldn't find an answer why he wouldn't eat. So I finally went to an occupational therapist. I found one, and she's like, I'm going to help you. You're going to get services. So through your insurance, let's get him going with feeding therapy. So that was my very first team that I acquired in my son's life. And so the team, you got to remember, it takes a village. And even with a typical child, when you're talking about a complex kid, then you need a lot more, right? So the teamwork, always, you have to have that. So that was number one for me. It was trying to find help through other people. The other thing was the H is help systems. And for me, it is what I'm talking about here is school districts, state programs. We are very lucky. I'm in California, and we're very lucky that there's a regional center here. And knowing how to navigate these state programs and what they can do and how they can help you at certain stages in your child's life. I mean, that is the best thing that you can find, because you're not going to be doing this alone, right? So it goes back to the teamwork, but the helping, you have to have that help from physicians, from the school districts and all of that. And even insurance companies, because you really kind of need to know how to navigate insurance companies also. So that is it goes under the H. Then we have the relationships, and that will include your family, your neighbors, your friends. I remember feeling very isolated for a long time because I couldn't take my son to a restaurant and sit there and actually have a meal, because we needed to walk him around. He had that hyperactivity, that attention, even when he was 18 months old, 2 years old. Like he would not sit still. He would not calm down. And when he got to his 3 or 4 year old time, he would tantrum. So we isolated ourselves for a long time. And right now now that he's 10, we're finally getting somewhere where one of the greatest things, and that's going to lead into the very last one, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, is the celebration. Like, we went on a hike. Do you know how amazing that is to just be able to go on a hike with your child? Oh my gosh, it was the most incredible feeling to take him and actually get out of the car, because in the past it was tantrums inside the car, and you go, I can't take him out. I can't do this. I can't do it. So, that goes into the very last one. But the I on the Thrive is actually
Just a
integration.
second. Relationships.
Go back.
So the team, the health, and the relationships. So what do you mean by so R stands for relationships. What do you do with the relationships? You talked about how you ended up isolating yourself. So how do you get out of isolating yourself? How did you know? What was the trigger? What happened that you realized isolating ourselves is not the solution?
It was when I realized that I needed people that understood what I was going through. My set of friends that I have, that we hang out with, they all have children with the same disabilities or same level. And we met through school, through the school districts, through the preschool, and we actually have been friends since they were 3 years old. When you find those people, that is kind of how you're gonna be able to not isolate yourself. But I think that the biggest thing here that I'm gonna talk about, and I'm glad that you asked that. Unfortunately, when you have a complex kid, your family, your direct family, and then your cousins, uncles, grandparents, it just gets affected. Like, I can't tell you how many times, like, my siblings or the grandparents, they would come to us. He's gonna grow out of it. Everything is gonna be okay. And they don't see what is happening. They're not in your house. They're not there. And so that family dynamics gets completely crazy, and your marriage gets affected. And so you have to have it goes back to the teamwork, but this is more of a friendship and in the relationships, the closer people. So we have finally, after being isolated, and seriously, my husband and I, we didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. He thought that I was making up things that weren't happening with him. And it was all of these things. And it wasn't until we sat down and were like, hey, we have to align what we're thinking. We have to bring in people that are friends and that understand what we're doing. And we have to communicate with your family, with my family. Hey, this is happening with my son. And you have to bring them in. You have to have that family support. And it starts with your husband or your significant other. And then one with the grandparents and with the uncles and aunts. Hey, listen, I know that you don't see this. And a lot of times you don't see it on the child when they're out with with their family and stuff like that. But you have to, you don't see it, but I'm telling you that this is happening at home, and this is how so you have to understand what's happening in my house, basically. So going back to what you asked, the relationship is more in the family, in the marriage, and including siblings, in all of that. That was a
So,
little.
who would you start with? I think I heard you say your significant other
Yeah.
is your most important relationship, but is this like what happens if you're a mom and you got to have that friend that understands is hopefully your significant other is the next step, right? What if it isn't? Sorry
If
to throw you a curveball.
I
I just got a
know,
buddy who's going through a very bad divorce right now. And
oh,
unfortunately, there's a lot of divorces happening. And I heard somebody went out and got super crazy after reading one little study that said, oh, if you have a child with special needs, you're 80% likely to divorce. And that made the rounds, and a lot of people believed it. And then somebody came in and said, hey, hang on a second, it wasn't a very good study, and there's some things. But I imagine the truth is that it still puts a strain because you're wiped out, they're wiped out. What do you do when it's not necessary? I don't know. Do you have a rule of thumb for picking your first partner?
so it has to be your partner, right? But when that doesn't work, and I will tell you, I was there. I we've gone, like, my marriage, ups and downs and ups and downs. And it's so hard. It's so hard. It's exactly what you're saying. You you're you're wiped out. For me, I'm still a time working mom. My husband works also. So having somebody to take care of my child, I can't tell you how many people we had to go through to find somebody that could handle him, that knew how to take care of him the way that he needed to be taken care of. But I'm going to go back to the marriage. A lot of times I believe that this is one of the biggest strains that's going to be put in a marriage. It is. I look at moms and dads out there that have these issues, and Kim, I'm going to tell you, I don't know what the percentages are on the divorce, but I can see how that happens. Like, we almost got divorced so many times. And it wasn't just once, it was a few times around, it just kind of happens. But we stuck together. And I think that um, once you go back to what I was talking about, which is having a good team and a village around you, that helps your marriage also. So if your significant other is not approachable as your first go-to, for me, it was other moms that I knew that were going through the same issues that I was at the time. And my sisters, they understood. And so you have to find that support somewhere. And then you have to do a lot of therapy with your husband to be able to stick together. Psychotherapy, it's the way.
Love it.
Mm.
You talk, I saw on your website you have a guide on controlling meltdowns, and you talk about being proactive with communicating with your support network. This happens in our house, and I imagine one of the most visible things that they see is the meltdowns, right? And how can you share some of the strategies you find most effective?
Sure. With my son, what has helped a lot is the front loading, right? So this is what we're going to do. Give him a time. Hey, in about 10 minutes, we're going to go do this. So if the transition
Mm-hmm.
really, really helps. And giving options sometimes is one thing that I have also learned, especially now. when they're little, I don't think that they understand what options are. Like in their heads, they're just doing what they're doing, and they just know that that is fun, and they don't want to go do whatever else you want them to do next, right? So when they're younger, especially on the developmental delayed kids, they don't understand. So giving options doesn't work. But now with my son, he understands. And so you can do it this way or this way. So I think that those are the two things that that helps that I have found that has helped with him. And I will tell you one more thing. When you're having that meltdown in front of people, the best thing that I've been able to do is I go down on the ground with them and I sit there, and people can walk by. This has happened so many times at the grocery store, right? You sit down with him and you have to take it in as like, is this really happening to me right now? This is funny. I am sitting on the floor at a grocery store with my kid who's crying because he wants this or he doesn't want to do that. And people are walking by. And if you are serious and you're trying, I just feel like you have to take it in and like make it light as you can. And I just,
What do you mean?
What do I mean?
Yeah, take it in and make it light.
What I mean is you sit down on the ground with them and people walk by and you just go, it's happening. It's just happening. Like, I'm sorry that this is happening, but I'm a mom and I'm having this problem. And I have found that when you don't overthink what's happening, I don't know if overthinking is that the word that I'm looking for, but when you make it as like a horrible thing, oh my gosh, I'm doing this, my child is doing this in the middle of the grocery store, I'm so embarrassed, don't look at me. This is when things snowball. And
I think the technical word you were looking for is catastrophizing.
Right? Yes, that's a good word. I'm going to use that one in the future, Kim.
I have a kid who sees a counselor regularly, and he shared with us some of the worksheets, and one of the things was the tendency that he would have to catastrophize, to not see the incident as an incident, but an incident as the tip of the iceberg, and just going down through all of the iceberg of emotions and consequences, and when really what's happening is up here, but the whole iceberg becomes the event. And I think that's what I heard you say when you say make it like, is let's look at the incident and don't catastrophize. So how do you do that? How do you take a breath? It's not a catastrophe. It's just a meltdown. We've been through those before. How do you do that?
It's super hard, especially in the beginning. But you have to remember, this is what helps me, is that my son, or that child, doesn't know how to control their emotions. And it's not about you, it's about them. And so all you can do is help them, support them, be there. And for me, that is when I can take myself out of the situation and be, okay, this is going to happen. You're going to have to go through this. You're going to have to calm down yourself. I can be here. I can support you, but they don't know. They just don't know how to control their emotions. So remembering that is how I have been able to get through it.
Well, I
Yeah,
think it's a
that's
perfect segue in maybe doing a bit of meltdown management protocol training. Claudia, what do you think? Those
yeah,
who have been listening to our podcast for a while have probably heard us talk about it a couple of times. Those of you who haven't, brace yourselves, take a notepad because Claudia's got a miracle to show you.
yeah. And having a mom who's dealing with it, knowing she's going to share, that's such a treat. So the way I look at it, and we do with Mandability, is what is going on in the brain. And what you're saying is so true, so perfect. No more control. And in our field of expertise, it's okay, serotonin levels have dropped. And when you mentioned earlier transitioning, preventing the sudden surprise of change is certainly one of the things to do. But shopping, you do not know what happened in the car, on the road, what he saw, what she felt. There is already a package, and suddenly this level of serotonin is so low that it becomes overwhelming sensation of distress. And the only thing that this young person or older person can do is scream the distress. The noise is not helping, it's just pushing out. It's, I cannot, as you say, handle it. And serotonin in our brain is about relaxation, is about control, is about learning, is about the sensory translation of the environment. And kids that you mentioned on the spectrum do not produce enough of that by birth, that any information from the environment can be more difficult to handle than it is for us. Like you touch gently a person on the spectrum on the forearm, it's a gentle touch to communicate something. That person feels pain. And it's not when we look at pictures of the brain or brain activity, we can see that the information is actually going into the pain centers. So, what we want to do at that moment where nothing else will work and only time and exhaustion will bring an end to the meltdown, we want to help the brain resettle. And how do we do that? Well, you are in the grocery store, you're sitting on the floor, it's cool, I assume. And because you mentioned California, you have a bottle of water in your purse and it's cool water. So we want to use two things, and they are only about brain functions. They're not about reasoning, and please understand, because as a mom, that's not going to work. You don't reason a meltdown out. So we want two information. We want something cool, and we want a wonderful scent. So moms who know that sometimes a meltdown will happen and they are familiar with mendability, they have something that smells lovely in their purse. It can be a tissue that you have put some of your perfume on. It can be absolutely anything that
Hand
smells
cream.
nice.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, anything in grocery store. Hopefully, that would happen by the produce, and you could grab a fruit. So we want two things. We want something cool, and we want a nice aroma. What happens in the brain? You are going to either wet your hands and hold his hand with your cool hand with the water, or you're going to have your tissue and maybe touch his neck, or again, touch the two hands if you can. When the brain is in this terrible mode, the sensation of cold is a sudden reflex demand. Okay, whatever we were doing, we stop it right now because we need to process the temperature. And temperature is crucial. It's a survival information for humans. If we are exposed to cold for a minute and a half for the general population, we will die. Like That's the way we are
Well, I
made.
mean, you're talking about going into
Our cold.
sub-zero water temperature. You're not
Yes,
talking about,
no, no, no,
yeah,
no. I'm talking about our Canadian cold, the real one, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
So the human brain is made to respond very quickly to save our lives, whatever the information is around. And temperature is an easy one because if you touch his hand, the brain will get it. We
yeah.
don't need
I'm
to.
thinking, with your cold cloths, you can maybe wipe him and sort of gently just sort of bring some freshness and but also just all of a
Possibly,
sudden
but he's 10
multiple
year
points of
old.
contact.
He may be moving on the floor. We have a wonderful school in Australia
Yeah, that's right.
using the protocol often in their classrooms. And
Yeah, if
one
he's on a
teacher,
floor flailing around and
yeah.
flipping over like
So
a fish, a bit difficult.
you put your hand or the water bottle in contact with the child where you can. Don't worry too much at what point. Wherever you touch, the brain is going to get it and will get it really quickly. So what the brain does at that moment is, okay, like I was mentioning, stopping the mess because we need to have a survival action. We only touch with cold or cool for 2 seconds. We are not holding him in a wet towel. 2 seconds is completely enough for the brain to respond. And that's all that we want. We want the brain to stop what it was doing that was completely messy to do only one thing, which is focus. So suddenly this child is, oh, calm immediately, like 2 seconds. And you are now, or at the same time, if you can, having the child feel, smell a wonderful scent, aroma. So it can be your hand close to his face, it can be the tissue I was mentioning. He is screaming, means he is taking deep breath. And we don't need to have the child inhale delicately. We just need this child or young adult to breathe. Breathing is sufficient to bring in the molecules in contact with the receptors in the nose. And what happens when it's a lovely scent? And studies show that strawberry is the fastest to travel to the amygdala, like the nose, and behind the nose, the olfactory, where the smells are processed, and right behind it, the amygdala. And amygdala is where the rage happens. Well, the scent is going to settle the activity in the amygdala. So you have those two elements that don't need reasoning, don't need explanation, that are extremely quick to act. Typically, we count up to 5 seconds for a child to be calm. When he is calm, then you can approach and maybe rub his back. You keep the scent under the nose, because what we teach the families we work with and the professionals, the sense of smell helps the brain release dopamine. Dopamine is the feel good, is motivation, sense of pleasure. All the good things in life basically are processed through dopamine. You cannot have any medication that can do that for you, but smelling something lovely will do it. And not just a little bit, like smelling something will increase the release by 100%. So at that moment, he has twice as much dopamine flowing between his neurons. So suddenly he feels good and life is great. So that moment of lovely comfort and peace and love is, you can share it and have it last. There is no timing for pleasure. So,
So sitting
as
on the floor, grocery store, I could see it. I'd want to get out of it as soon as I want.
probably,
Victories
or
is
you may
like,
have a crowd sitting down, amazed and wanting to learn. So
so
hopefully you can use that, not soon, but always have something that smells lovely with you, your water bottle, and you can stop the meltdown in seconds.
do you know what's crazy, Claudie? Like I've been doing this for, I've had my son for 10 years, and this is going to sound crazy to you, but I only heard about the cold about 2 months ago. And my son had one here at the house, and we went. It was good because it was in the house, so I had access to ice. So we had like a little ice pack, and we gave it to him. And then
Hmm.
we went and we got some cold water, and we had him drink it, and it really did work.
Yeah.
I don't know how I've spent 10 years not knowing this.
Yes, well, today is the day where you tell way more
I hope
parents.
it's part of your Thrive program. You need to add this
Well,
to your meltdown management thing on the website.
I will. I'm gonna have to. It really it was something that I just learned about 2 months ago. You know, that's what I just love this, because you just keep on learning. You keep learning ways to help your child. So thank you for that. And that was very well explained too. Like, I really like how you went into the whole chemistry and how the brain works and all of that. So that was great.
I'll
Well,
send you a link. We've got what Claudia just explained in like 3 or 4 pages of a downloadable PDF.
Right.
Um, and maybe we can do a joint thing because
We
I
should.
love our thing that says what happens when the meltdown is happening, but
Mhm.
we don't have advice for, hey, how to do everything you can to, well, we have a treatment program on, raising serotonin levels so they're more resilient, more peaceful, more able to handle challenges and changes in environment like and things like that. But we don't do a lot of how you called it, front loading, help with the transition. Say, hey, we're going to be doing this, and is it okay? Do you have a couple of options? Which one do you want us to proceed with so we can move on with the thing that I want?
Yes. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
behavioral, like the pre part of it, right? And
Hmm.
that's what we try to do. You know, for when I was talking about isolation, and it was a lot to do with the meltdowns, that was the issue, right? You can't go to a restaurant because there's going to be a meltdown. You can't go to a grocery store because there's going to be a meltdown.
You can't
And
have
so,
family over because there's going to be a meltdown. You cannot go to
exactly,
Thanksgiving dinners because there's going to be meltdowns.
you can't go to your friend's house for a barbecue because they're not going to understand what is happening and what you're going to have to do to this kid.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I also like to bring up is that if you know that it's going to be an issue for your child, don't go there. Start with small steps, right? Like, and I'm gonna mention the hike again, because that was like I was on that hike and I was in the middle of nature, and I looked, I'm like, we are hiking. We are here. We made it. And but in the past, what did we do? We would put him in the car. Let's go on a hike, and then we wouldn't get out of the car, and then we would do it again, and then we knew that that was his threshold, and then you have to go into little steps, and part of this whole thing is celebration, right? I know that we talked about that, Kim, before, but celebrating those small wins. You know what? We got to the parking lot. Okay, we got out of the car this time. Yay! And then when you look at it and you're hiking and we're having fun. So it's those
Is it
small.
one of the Thrive? Is it part of your Thrive framework?
It is. It's
Because we
the
didn't do V or E, and I don't want to miss that.
No, it's the validations, and it celebrate like every achievement that he has. So, yes.
What's the what's your son's favorite way to be celebrated?
I'm gonna say something that it's gonna trigger some stuff, but he just loves iPhones, anything Apple, any electronics or anything like that. And in the past, that's what we used to give him. It was okay, you get some time on the iPad. Or let's go let's go to Apple store so you can look around. And then he would want to buy something which he doesn't even know what it does. It's just to have in his hand. He loves having those little things in his hands. And so the celebration usually comes with a reward, right? So, but
That's good. That
yeah,
is
Is
really,
that his
really
love
good.
language?
his love language is anything electronic. But I have to say, you know, I'm going to change the subject here just a second because this is something that I've been sharing with a lot of people lately.
Mhm.
About 3 months ago, my husband and we decided to take away iPads and iPhones. And
For
one
yourselves too?
mine, no, my son's, yes, we took it away from him and my daughter. And he was he was he was doing things around the house that I couldn't really understand what he was doing. So he would go in the corner and he would break one of his toys, or he would go in the summer last year, all of a sudden his computer from school disappeared. And I'm like, where is this computer? Where is this computer? And then we were like, about 4 months later, we were doing a cleanup in the backyard. It was behind one of the trees, completely smashed to pieces. And so and he was watching YouTube, and he was watching things that people were breaking things. And it was so hard to control what it is that he could see and he couldn't watch, that my husband was like, we are done. For 2 or 3 weeks, it was a nightmare in this house. Tantrums, meltdowns. I want my iPad. It was crazy, but they are doing so much better without the iPad. They actually go out, they play, they ride their bikes. They go for a walk around the neighborhood and take the dog out for a walk. And it has completely changed that part of his behavior. It is insane what it has done. They can still watch TV though. So now his reward is actually sitting in front of the TV and watching a Disney movie. We choose what it is that he can watch. It's not a free for all like it is the iPad. So, and we still give him like little things, like we have old remotes that he likes to take it apart and put, new batteries and play with the buttons and things like that, but it doesn't work. So anything electronic he loves, and we successfully took the iPad away from them, but it was hard. It was a hard
Yeah.
decision.
I can imagine the 3 weeks of the transition.
Mhm.
It was
What's the E? We got
uh,
team, we got
oh, did
healthcare, we got
we go
relationships.
through all of them?
Wait, what was the I?
Oh,
Yeah.
the I is integration, which we skipped. We
We
skipped
skipped integration. Tell
that.
us about integration.
Integration is my personal time. You have to, moms.
Hmm.
Oh, I don't know how to do this and say this in any other way. But unless you take time for yourself, you have to be well. You have to be, if you are not well, you cannot take care of your child. There's absolutely no way. So we sometimes, and here's the thing, is that if you're not well, your child is not going to well, right? And a lot of times with a complex child, it is so hard to take time away. And so even if it is that you walk outside the door and take some deep breaths, just to give yourself a little bit of peace and take some deep breaths, you have to take that, even if it's small times away, like if it's just a few minutes, even if it is 5 minutes. Mamas, I cannot say it enough. You have to take care of yourself. Have to take care of yourself. So it's the integration, self-care, taking away from the caregiving responsibilities that you have to step away from that a little bit. So
You have to, absolutely.
you have to, or it's not going to go
We
anywhere.
did a survey 2, 3 years back and asked all the parents in our newsletter to tell us when the last time was that they did something for themselves and what they did. It was very enlightening to see that so few parents were able to say that they didn't remember the last time.
Yep. We try. So, my husband and I, when we finally started getting along again, was when we made time for ourselves. And it wasn't just for me, it was for me and him, right? We
You're
had,
talking about date time, like a weekly date night,
yes.
whatever happens,
And this
it's
is,
me and you and no kids.
yes, exactly.
Yes,
You,
yes.
that is very important. And I feel like that is part of, taking care of yourself. Um,
It's
and
adult time.
it is.
And it's somebody who knows that you don't want to be talking about the kid. You're not going to talk to him about the kid, you know? You don't have to. Because
And
I mean, I imagine the first 5 minutes of with your sister or somebody else is like, okay, so tell me about the boy. I said, no, 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 no. I don't want to talk about the boy.
exactly.
I need a break.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even if it is like going to Starbucks and getting a cup of coffee, sitting down and just taking yourself away. Uh, I'm going to go back to California, which this is great for the moms that are in California. I think that all states have differently, but the state of California actually gives moms what they call respite care hours.
Hmm.
If you have your child in the system, in the regional center system, they will pay for somebody to come to your home and take care of your child for you while you can go take care of yourself. So,
Integrate.
yes. Yep. That's right. Integrate.
Integration.
Yeah.
Yes. I for me.
Yes. Me. Yes. And we talked about validation, and the last one,
Yes.
embrace community support. And this is like the support network that you're gonna,
It's
there's
back to the team, right?
kind of, but it's more like, hey, go find those communities, like um sometimes, Facebook groups or moms that are so we started last year, we started a special needs soccer league, and having that community around you, like, and it goes back to the team, like, you have to surround yourself. You cannot, I'm going to go back, it takes a village. It takes a village, and you have to build that village. So maybe that's what I should say. Like, my whole thing, should be, it takes a village, not thrive. It just takes a village.
I saw a framed quote on at a friend's house just last week, and it was definition for the word family. And it's I don't know if the word exists. I have to look it up. But it's the friends that you bring together to create your own family. So like the family that you choose. It
Mhm,
sounds like it's a nice way to summarize what you're talking about, creating the community, creating the team, the healthcare,
mhm.
and the relationships with your hopefully significant other and then yourself. And then celebrate the wins. Did I get it right?
You
Not
did.
in this, not
Love it.
so
I love it. I will tell you, the best part of it all, though, is those celebrations. It's looking at the small wins. Uh, and when you have a complex kid, everything You blame yourself. You wonder what kind of a mom you are. You wonder what you've done wrong. I mean, everything just comes to you, right? And you have to change the way that you approach life. You have to set different expectations for yourself, for your child. And seriously, there's nothing better that we need to do to be better parents than celebrate those moments, because those little wins build up the blocks that will become your child in the future, right? You have to just give them that, and to yourself too. Happy.
I got a
Yeah.
suggestion for E.
Okay, tell
I
me.
don't want to ruin your embrace communities.
No.
I want to say expect the miracle.
Hey, I like that one.
Right?
Yeah. I'm gonna write that down. It is. And really,
Why not?
yeah.
Right? I mean, you've got your healthcare team, you got your partners, you got your family, you've got yourself,
Yeah.
you got your small victories, and then you've got hope. You got your expect the miracle. Hey, I mean,
I love that, Kim. I'm telling you, you should be my copy person. I love
it's not working on our website, so I don't know.
it. Oh,
Oh,
but
I loved the time we spent together, Michelle. Thank you
oh,
for sharing your insights with our parents. Uh, and thank you, Claudie. Thank you, Mom, for
You're
explaining
welcome.
about the meltdowns and the meltdown management yet again. I'm sure we'll have multiple other times to talk about it because it's so simple and so powerful. And it explains, I think, very well the how our program, which is made of very simple protocols of brain stimulation, how something as simple as what we do can have a profound impact on behavior. Because we're talking about miracles. We have a client in a wheelchair, and his name was Jesus, and I love the story that we were able to make Jesus walk. It's a I love this story of the miracle. Miracles is a big part of what we do. And so maybe that's why it was on my mind for you too.
I love
Mhm.
that. I really do. I love it. I might actually have to change that because I love that so much. Expect the miracle. And we really, you have to have that hope. You have to, you can only do what you can do for your child, but you can always do better, right? And once you do that, once you put in the work, you will feel like, okay, I'm helping him, I'm helping her, and it will come along. It will. It will come along. You'll be able to go on that hike.
Mhm.
You'll be able to go on that hike. Everybody, there's a hike on in the future for you too.
Yeah.
Have a good week, everybody. We'll see you next week for the next episode of the podcast. Have a
Wonderful.
blessed day.
Bye bye.